Hi, I'm Kathy Dooley-Smith, the President-elect of the Friends of Tennessee Libraries. This presentation is part of the 2021 Annual Friends of Tennessee Libraries meeting. We are delighted to have you here with us. We have been, for the last 29 years, promoting and supporting libraries by mentoring friends groups across our state. We were happy to help you at any time. We have lots of information on our website, so please go to friendstnlibraries.org to find out more. Earlier this year, the Friends of Tennessee Libraries sent out a survey, and so many of you answered that call and gave us a wealth of information about what you need from us and from our friends, other friends groups. Almost 50% of you asked for guidance and help with fostering relationships among friends, library board, library staff, and the funding body for your library, because as we all know, those relationships are absolutely critical in getting the support you need for your library. So we got a panel together. Library people are just the most wonderful people. So I am delighted to share with you the wonderful people who support the John P. Holt Brentwood Library. So in addition to my role at FOTL, I am the president of the Friends of the Brentwood Library, and I just finished 6 years on the library board. So these are the wonderful people that I get to work with every day. Panelists, welcome. Thank you so much for being with us. I want to do a quick introduction so everyone knows who we are. Dottie Grief is our library board chair. We never wanted to replace Dottie when I was on the library board. She's amazing. Susan Earle is our library director. She's fantastic. We are so glad she's such a visionary. Cindy Franklin has been bamboozled into being the president-elect of the Brentwood Library. So I'm going to run away and not be reached by any form of communication in just a short time. Dustin Goforth, his public title is Public Service Manager of the John P. Holt Brentwood Library. He is really our assistant director, historian, genealogist, artist. So he wears many hats. As does Betsy Crosley. Betsy has been on and off the library board for a very long time. She is currently a library board member. She's a former mayor of the city of Brentwood, so she can really speak to that relationship with the governing body of your library. And Jay Evans, who is the assistant city manager for the city of Brentwood, who helps us get all the wonderful things that we need for the library. So hello, everybody.
So
let's start with, what was the relationship among all of us like 5 or 10 years ago? Susan, do you want to start with that?
Sure, and again, no names. When I started, the board meetings were, the Friends board meetings, I'm going to start with that, was once a month, hardly attended. They even had one part-time library employee on the board, in which I had to say, you can't do that. She either stays with us or she gets to volunteer on your Friends board. And she made her decision to stay with the library. But it was very not encouraging. And what I had to do was go every meeting, have a presentation of what I asked for them to fund, and then they would go back and forth about whether they wanted to fund it or not. So it really didn't feel like they were friends. I felt a little more like, the Supreme Court, but it got better. And every president brings something different to a Friends board, as well as a library board. And it's really about who's in what position and who's on what board, because they all bring something to those boards. And of course, having the right person in city administration also helps. So that's what we started out with. and then it got better. And that next president kind of eased the pain. There was a major gap between the people who did Amazon book sales and the people did in-person book sales. And so she was able to bring that all together because she was actually head of the Amazon book sales. So after she left, we had another person who came in and focused on advocacy and membership. And then she was followed by someone who brought diversity into the board. There became brown people there. And then you came, Kathy Dooley Smith, and you brought a different type of board, still very full of diversity, but really represented the families that come into our public library. And along the way, the city changed their finance director. And he was like, we need to rearrange how we do this gift fund and friends fund. And so that was a wonderful break in knowing how we could push forward. But my favorite part was along the way, I was given a budget and a line item. And I didn't have to go and beg for money because bottom line was you trusted us enough to spend it wisely. So that's the history in a nutshell.
Well, what I'm hearing there is communication. You need to communicate. And if you are always remembering that we're always looking to the same goal, to get the very best for the patrons and the users of the library. Dottie, would you talk a minute about how Friends and Library Board interact and why that's important?
Let me start with what we've done, the importance we see with Friends now. Let me start with what we've done currently. Just within the last couple months, our board amended our bylaws to add a Friends representative at each of our meetings. That was new. Kathy had been serving on our board and was the Friends representative, but we now have an independent Friends representative. So I think that alone speaks for how the board values Friends, our relationship with Friends. I have been on the board maybe, I guess, more than 6 years, about 6 years. And I have watched this develop. I don't recall at the beginning of my tenure, this relationship with Friends. It was as if, okay, there was Friends, there was the foundation, and I was part of the foundation and didn't understand and see the role that Friends has played and which they play in our library today. And so for me as chair of our board, it is crucial that we have a good working relationship.
Yes, and I think from the Friends board, the first time I came on the board for Friends, I don't think they understood their role either of where they kind of fit in the jigsaw puzzle. And that was a big part of the holdup and the problem. So I actually did an organizational chart, one of the first meetings that I was president. And I said, this is the flow chart of how it works. And Friends are like PTO. We are here to support. We are not at the top of the pyramid, but we are absolutely critical to a lot of the things that happen. Betsy, what can you add from not only as a former library and current library board member, you've seen a wide range of stuff there, but also as former mayor of the city of Brentwood?
Well, I think in our particular case, we love our library so much in the city. It's very, very well attended. And so we hear a lot from individuals about what a wonderful place it is, and we're held accountable to keep it that way. But I think also when you add in things like the gifts that Friends have given that don't come out of the budget, the things that you do as volunteers that we're not having to hire extra staff to do, that there's just so much in logistics for the city that it's not just what you do and how wonderful that is, it's also how that affects the budget, how that affects operations. And so I think that friends are just an integral part of our particular library scheme.
Well, I agree with that. Jay, tell us some ways that friends can really build that relationship with the funding body, because some of them are county funded, some of them are independent board funded, some of them are municipal, city funded like ours. What could friends do to really advocate at the funding level?
Probably the most important thing they can do is build relationships, and building relationships where the friends group is viewed simply as a resource and an advocate for all things library. When it comes to individual policy decisions or funding priorities or whatever, those are all part of the kind of the day-to-day nuts and bolts, but it's all countenance upon the relationships that are established between elected officials and the Friends board members and the membership, and making sure that the value that they bring to the library is known by those individuals. So inviting them, to events that they have, getting them involved possibly in fundraising, book sales and things like that. It's all kind of cultivating those relationships, strengthen the ties, and then your priorities as a friends group suddenly become the priorities of the funding bodies. So it's being visible, establishing yourself, and I'm not familiar, I'm sure as some of our audience is, with a lot of acrimony or drama associated with the friends groups. But I can only imagine that where that happens, then their effectiveness is lessened. Where there is sort of acrimony or drama, and that's not something that elected officials look forward to or look kindly on. They get enough of that. But it's when those groups are really just, hey, we're here to help. What can we do? And I can tell you, Betsy kind of mentioned the generosity that we've been met with by the friends. We have staff development gets funded by the friends. Not all of it, but some important parts of it. And boy, staff development, that's not a sexy item. That's not a big high profile thing that, hey, look what the friends did. And it's, this big, beautiful, shining thing that sits out front. No, it's staff development. But that just means that they're doing some of the core things that are really meaningful to our library, that anybody that looks at that sees that says, you know what, they're just out for the betterment of the library.
I think a great piece of advice Jay gave me very early on, and he may not even remember this. He said, don't just show up when there's a problem. And I certainly have modeled Dottie in this. Dottie is excellent at attending a potpourri of city commission events that may or may not have an agenda item related to the library. And it's shocking to me how much that FaceTime promotes the relationship, and how much you learn that allows the friends group to come in and say, hey, we know you're building a police station, and the budget for this project isn't going to happen this year unless the friends come in and help. Jay got a phone call from me not too long ago. We have a moving wall that separates our two meeting rooms, and the moving wall stopped moving. And it started making horrible sounds like a dying pterodactyl. And there was no way that was going to get in the budget for this fiscal year. And so the friends worked together with library board and the staff to identify that as a real critical need for the library that couldn't wait. And we called Jay and said, hey, we'll fund 30,000 if you kick in the last 15. And Jay said, sold.
Oh, let's do it.
And that was, again, it's not the really fancy, sexy thing. It's a moving wall, but we did a video about it. We told the community what we were doing. We went to a city commission meeting, and the city commission was so gracious to let us talk about it so that we could have that publicity. We probably got 20 new Friends members and several $1,000s of donation just for that project. So all of that working together, if we didn't have that good relationship, I don't feel like that would have happened.
Kathy, that speaks to what I just said about, the Friends having their finger on the pulse of the library and coming forth with something that's, like you said, not a sexy project, but apparently you guys went to Susan. Susan, what do you need? And Susan said, it's my moving wall, And next thing you know, the Friends are showing up with $30,000 in hand and offering to assist the city with getting that thing done. That's a real partnership.
Yes. And it was a little bit self-serving because if, the wall doesn't move, we can't have book sale. So it was really a win all around, because Cindy, we need to have book sales, right?
Well, that pays for the wall, so.
Yes, we got to pay for the wall. We got to pay for the wall. So Dustin, you are a fairly new member of the John P. Holt Brentwood Library. What have you noticed that you think is unique or really important about this kind of partnership that we all have?
I would say the biggest thing, honestly, has been addressed a couple of times, but communication, absolutely communication, and just listening and really thinking about what needs to be done and how to get around to it. The meeting wall, for example, doesn't just serve the Friends or the library, it serves the organizations that try and go into the room. And while it's not necessarily that exciting project, just because a community needs something doesn't mean that you don't have to sell it to where they want it, because that's $30,000 is quite a lot of money. And I think that being able to raise that kind of funds takes a lot of commitment, a lot of time, and a lot of effort, especially from people that are volunteering, especially from people that are putting in time to try and increase and improve the library. And so I think that's the most important piece that I see that's kind of unique in this city compared to a lot of others.
Yes, you came from Colorado, from a very big library system in Colorado. So
I did.
It's a little different world. Cindy, can you talk about some of the partnerships that are currently going on with other organizations like Historic Commission, the Leadership Brentwood Story Walk, and how Friends is working with people also outside of the library?
Sure. What I was thinking when I was hearing each group, each person talk, was that it's really kind of a three-legged stool supporting the seat of community, relationships, and communication and trust, because all of those help provide the foundation for a good community. And one thing I wanted to mention real quickly was even our support of the History Bowl. A city function where Dustin served as the Alex Trebek of our Jeopardy challenge. Friends had a team, and Kathy and I were cheerleaders, and sitting with Dottie, who was also on the sidelines. We had so much fun, and we were able to see each other in different lights, but again, contributing to that sense of community. And that's what Jay talked about. If you are at different functions like that, then you see how all of the pieces of the puzzle fit together. And right now, the Friends is working to help restore the story walk that another group of Brentwood city members contributed. It was Brentwood leadership who initially gave the story walk, right, to the library. Right. And so we're helping restore that now. So helping to carry the torch, so to speak, for other organizations. And Kathy, I should have been making notes because I got so excited about my stool that I forgot the first part of the question.
Oh, Historic Commission. The friend
the
painting.
Historic Commission. Yes, yes. We have a beautiful painting that was presented to the library, and we had the opportunity of creating note cards for sale. The artist Peggy Snow gave us permission to sell note cards of the reproductions of the painting that she had gifted. And we're working with the Historic Commission in a fundraising venture to provide income for both the Historic Commission and for the Friends by partnering on this project to sell the note cards. And anytime we can do these partnering activities, again, it contributes to that seed of community where people in other groups understand more about what Friends does and what Friends can contribute, and we understand more about how different organizations work to fit the overall scheme of community. But it's great when you can partner across the board with the different organizations. And Kathy has been very generous about including me on all of her emails as I try to enter into the next phase where Susan, I know, is going, we've got a new person coming in. But again, it's maintaining that level of communication, and I'm seeing exactly, we want to make sure that there's always with Friends as smooth a transition as possible. And having that trifecta of the relationships, communication, and trust makes all the difference in the world.
Well, and that's why I copy you on all those emails. And it's kind of a joke. I tend to try to limit my friends' activity to 1 or 2 days a week, and I will absolutely blow up Susan's inbox, Dustin's inbox, Cindy's inbox. Sometimes Dottie gets a few as well, but making sure that everybody knows the plan. You don't have to respond. It's just everybody knowing where we are on a project, or knowing what's happening or what problems are that we're addressing, and asking for ideas. I think is critical. And we started those partnerships almost by accident out in the community. A couple of years ago was the 50th anniversary of the incorporation of the city of Brentwood, and we made these fantastic shirts that had this map of Brentwood on it. And one of my friends called me and said, "Hey, can we come set up a little table and sell those t-shirts at a book sale?" And I went, "Sure." And so we have pre-pandemic, we did several of those. We did Brentwood Green Space with the t-shirts. We did Fluffy Dog Rescue, who had dogs outside while we were having a book sale. Not sure how to do that again. That was a lot of fur. And but we're probably going to partner with the Historic Commission again for our upcoming book sale. They published a book about the history of Brentwood that they would like to come and have a table at the book sale. And all those things just help you work together. It's playing nice in the sandbox, and being a good partner. I think that the most, if I thought one thing about that Friends suffer from, is a lack of people knowing what we do. And it's also critical that your library board, your commissioners, your city staff knows what we do. Dottie and I think really worked on this a lot. Would you talk about the education piece that we do at both Friends board member meetings and at library board meetings?
Are you speaking of illuminations?
Yes, you probably need to explain what illuminations means and why we call it that.
We wanted the library board, in our continuing effort, to educate library board members about all the services of the library. Susan, actually it was one of Susan's staff that came up with the word illuminations. Now I have to stop here because Kathy says she started that with Friends, and she says that the library board stole that from Friends. So that will just go down as a contest for years and years.
We
Debate.
called it something else. I can't remember what we called it, but it was not nearly as cool as Illuminations. And
Oh,
then a
I
staff
don't know.
member came up with Illuminations. But
Beautiful.
we were doing this at Friends. We just didn't have a cool name for it.
Right. So we did beat you there, Kathy. But I can't take credit. It was one of Susan's staff, and I don't recall who gave us that name. But essentially what we do is every month, the first part of our agenda, and we adopted this into our bylaws, we include a service. Last month was Hoopla, right, Dustin? And we are so excited about our new library app. That was one month. And so we do that each month. We have done that for a couple years. And I personally find it so informative and educational. And what I do as chair is then send that illumination section to our city commissioners, to our city manager and assistant city manager. And many times we receive feedback about what we've shared, and many of the commissioners share that with their constituents.
Yes, Jay, do you want to? Why is that important? It's a simple email. It's a couple of paragraphs about a program or service the library offers. Why is that so effective to send that to your funding body?
It's keeping the library on their radar. It's simply keeping it on the radar, keeping them informed. You know, these are busy people that not only do they put in, Miss Betsy, you can attest a lot of your own time being a city commissioner, but you have a personal life too. And so they may not always be able to get over to the library and have their finger on the pulse of the library, but they know people who do. And,
Yes.
and the people like Dottie are sending out correspondence that are, keeping the library on their radar and what's happening over there. That's really important. That's part of that advocacy.
Yes, and Dottie's very good about saying, how much does this cost? How many people are using it? So not only what it is, but its impact, both on the budget and for the patrons and the users.
And they will oftentimes see those same things come up in the budget discussions that, oh, I remember that. Dottie was talking about it in her email. We just reviewed that a couple of months ago. So it's education for them on things that they're going to see later.
Yes.
May I also, go ahead.
I just want to add, I think another hidden benefit to having illuminations is it gives the library board an upfront close look at another staff member.
Yes, we love that, because you invite the staff member to present who is really responsible or owns whatever that product or service is. And so it's just a great way for staff to see library board, Friends board, and vice versa. So, we are a pretty happy family. Not to say that we don't have issues, but I think we all truly like each other, which is important. We love the library and we like each other. Because library meetings get very long, don't they, Betsy?
They do, but when you said that, I was just thinking about every time I come to the library now, I see circulation or other different staff members greeting patrons. Hi, so-and-so. And every time I walk in, they wave, hey, how's it going? You feel so welcome there, regardless of what your position is. It's a community gathering place. And I think Friends does such a good job of bringing that together every time they have the book sale. People are there waiting, ready to go.
We do have a line. I think Dustin was very shocked at our last Friends book sale.
I was.
It was your first one here, wasn't it? So what did you?
Well, at first, I will say that the library that I came from in Colorado was, the Friends were nowhere near as involved as I would say that this city was. And whenever I first saw the line that was waiting for the book sale, I thought that it was a school field trip. And I was thinking in my head, oh man, we've got to start preparing for this large crowd that's about to come in. And sure enough, as I'm walking by, I noticed that they're all waiting for this big book sale, and it got me emotional, to be honest with you, because just to see the amount of people that was there to try and not just promote us, but to promote literacy in general was wonderful.
Well, we make it fun. We play 80s music. We're all singing along. I mean, we really try to make it an event. Jay, I know you have lots going on. Before you have to go, can you talk about the proclamation that the city does, and why that may seem not very important, but is?
Sure. We we have our mayor celebrate the Friends of the Library through proclamation every year. And again, here's an opportunity where members of the Friends get to come and have a face in front of the city commission, and the city commission's talking about library things. And it's that opportunity, an annual opportunity every year to kind of celebrate what it is that the Friends do. And so there's more than one proclamation related to the library that we do every year. And that's just another thing that helps keep it on the radar and keep us kind of celebrating the good work of the folks, both staff and our wonderful volunteers that are doing good things at our library.
Well, we do 2 proclamations. Go ahead, Jay.
I was going to go on another subject, but go ahead and talk about the proclamations.
Well, you would think this is like not a very big deal, but this gets you a news story in the local media. It gets you in front of the commission. You can invite your friends to come in, and they can say, oh, I know that person. That person's my neighbor. That person's a friend too. But we have our annual anniversary on the week before National Friends of Libraries Week. So it's kind of like having your birthday on Christmas Eve. We still would like to have 2 different presents, and so we get 2 proclamations. And those are so important, just to take another minute to say, yes, we are all a partner with this. Tennessee is one of the very few states that has a state level proclamation, and Brentwood is one of maybe 2 in the state that recognizes their Friends with a proclamation. And so we are always so grateful to have that recognition, because a lot of our volunteers, you never see them. They're back sorting books for 3,000 or 4,000 hours a year, and you don't necessarily see them. So for them to see that the city recognizes their contribution and values it, it's just fantastic. The other thing, Dottie, I would love for you to talk. Oh, Jay, you were going to talk about something else. Do that first.
I just wanted to make sure that one point gets communicated, that it's an observation I've made. I've been here about 9 years now, and I've been very impressed the whole time. And it relates to organizational dynamics, which I know is probably the reason that some folks are tuning into this now, because they kind of want to hear what's the secret to the sauce. And I think one of the important things is everybody here tends to kind of stay in their lane. The library board, they're not overbearing with Susan in operational issues because they're a policy board. The Friends don't meddle in Susan's issues or the library board's policy issues. Everybody kind of stays in their lane. Mm-hmm. And sure, they inquire of each other and maybe offer some input and some feedback on things that are going on, but it doesn't cause friction. And I think in a lot of places, that's where the friction comes in, is maybe one group overstepping into the responsibilities of another group.
Yes. Susan at one point was going to get me a mug because I said, stay in your lane so frequently. She said, yeah, I think that needs to be a present I get for you. That's really important. Like I said at the beginning, that organizational chart is just visualizing that it doesn't mean we're not important. Everyone's important to making it work. But there is, just like in any organization, a structure that we need to all abide by. Great point, Jay. Betsy, would you talk about the fact that so many of the commissioners and library board members are actually friends, and why that's important?
I think that's amazing too. And many of them are lifetime members, which is a greater commitment. Oftentimes when you have your quarterly meetings and dinners, we're there to see what's going on. And that was not the case all the time. It's gotten much better over the last few years. And I think that just goes again to the communication piece, where we're recognizing how important the library is and really trying to be a part of it and keep up with it and meet the folks that run Friends and the folks that make up Friends, and meeting with friends during the time that it's not an official visit, it's a time for friends to talk with us. So we're going to find out what you're doing instead of saying, you guys need to do this for us. It's, hey, thank you. We really appreciate you. So it's been very good to have those times together. And I think that the majority of the folks that are on the commission right now, if not all of them, do value everything that the Friends do for us.
Yes. Dottie, I think we have all members of the library board currently as lifetime members of the Friends, don't we?
I'm not sure about lifetime, but we do have all our members. And I just want to point out the importance that the board placed on that membership. While the board members would have done that on their own, we thought it so important that we included that. We amended our bylaws that one of the responsibilities of all trustees would be to maintain membership in Friends. And I think that just implies the board's importance of the relationship between Friends and the board.
Well,
Yes.
and I think it's important to underscore too that with that membership in Friends, Dottie, we really appreciate your being a working member of Friends and your presence at the book sales, because that helps so much. And again, building those relationships, the communication, and crossing over those bounds and reinforcing those at all possible times.
And if I may follow up with that, Cindy, one of the things that the duties that I have volunteered for in the last few have been greeters, especially since pandemic. And I so enjoy that because I see during my two hours, I see everyone who comes to the book sale, and it's a great time to be enthusiastic about our library, about our book sales. And I just love the Friends people that I work with. We have a lot of fun. We laugh a lot.
We do. We try to find the book that we think is the weirdest book that won't sell. And then we decide who wins that at the end of the bet. We find some great selections.
Right. Even for decades, one of our city commissioners was sitting at the table at the pay table
Yes.
and just had to be there, and really meant a lot to him to be there. So it's always been a good relationship, but it just seems to be getting better over the years.
Yes, and Betsy's a big volunteer. She was when she sat on the commission. One of our first sales after an election, we had a newly elected city commissioner who volunteered with his whole family, and he was schlepping out boxes of books, like 60-pound boxes of books. And how wonderful is that for the community to see that support? And we are just so grateful for all of that. All right, well, I guess the final thing I would like to remind everyone to do is, when you go and do these things, when you go to the city commission to get the proclamation, or to support the library budget, or to support a project that's going on, take a picture with your group, with the elected officials. Post that. They love it. They will always come in and say something. And again, it just keeps them in the positive. Anytime you can have that positive interaction is really critical. So anything else you think, what's your last big tip that maybe we didn't cover for really creating a library ecosystem that works together? We miss anything?
Kathy, I love your social media idea because that shows the cooperation, but not only that, it gets publicity out for your library as well. So it really helps the Friends group.
Yes.
For Friends group members, just showing up at the library and making an effort to get to know the different staff members. Again, it helps communication and trust. You can't trust someone you don't know.
Yes. And all of these things are free. So if you're a small Friends group that doesn't have a lot of money, we haven't talked about, with the exception of like a big project that you partner with, all of these things are an email, a showing up at a meeting, just building relationships that are free. Susan has been instrumental in letting the Friends have a little bit of time on inventory day, like 5 minutes on inventory day or staff development day, just to say, hey, we're the Friends, here's what we do. Could you please promote us and send people to book sale and, share our stuff on social media, and just reminding everybody, we have a very large staff of particularly part-time and subs that we need that face-to-face so that they understand the value of what we do. But thank you all so much for sharing your time and for sharing your stories with us. Thanks to all of you for joining us. The Friends of Tennessee Libraries is always available to help you and mentor you through any situation. Please don't hesitate to contact us. For more information, you can go to friendstnlibraries.org. Thank you for all that you do for libraries and for Friends groups, and happy Friends of Libraries Week.